Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Monday Huddle, PressProsMagazine.com. I'm Bruce Hooley. That is Sonny Fulks. Fresh, although I don't know how fresh, not very fresh, maybe a little gamey from the road. He is back from North Dakota with a freezer full of pheasant and a song in his heart as we get ready to talk a little basketball as we transition from football into basketball season. Hello, Mr. Fulks.
Not a freezer full, just a cooler full. And you're right. I mean, we just literally got back a few minutes ago. I went out with my friend Craig Huffer, who a lot of people know as a chiropractor in Jackson Center. But we went out and to Northwest North Dakota, spent a few days out there. And I want to thank a lot of people that I met out there, but in particular, a gentleman named Doug Clemens, who lives out in the Noonan area out there, and we had such a good time. He actually put us up at his garage, fed us. He couldn't have been a better guide and host, and we just had a heck of a time out there. It was cold. How cold was it? Well, the day before we got there, they say it was 14 below zero. Whew. And then we 108 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour winds, so it was a little bit of a challenge, but one nice thing about going to North Dakota and places like that, there's more pheasants than there are people. So we had a great time. And Doug, I think you're probably watching tonight. I couldn't appreciate that more. We couldn't have had more fun. And thanks for having us. And I look forward to come back and doing it again sometime.
So there are more pheasant than there are people, but there are less pheasant than there were before you went out there.
Let me give you an idea. There's probably about 720,000 and change total population. That's according, I think, to the 2020 census. 720,000 and change people in the state of North Dakota total. And there are probably 3 or 4 million pheasants. I don't know, but we saw everything out there. It's a gorgeous state to go to. They talk about Montana being the big sky country. Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't get any bigger than what they have in North Dakota. And just the people out there were friendly. They're just great people. They're hardworking, just people who appreciate the natural resources and the environment that they have. And it is a gift. I'm telling you, when you go out there and get up in the morning and look at the sun up, there are no colors on the palette of any artist that can match that. So wonderful time, Doug. Thank you again. And hope to you got to send me that recipe for that deer sausage. That does not get any better than that.
Well, you mentioned hardworking people, and we are going to talk to a hardworking coach who requires hard work of his basketball team. Jackson Center coach Scott Elchert will join us here in a few moments. Jackson Center has evened its record at 2-2. They started off 0-2, but they've won the last 2 games. And anybody who's watched Scott Elchert's teams play knows that they won these last 2 games with defense. They've given up 29 points. I don't mean 29 points per game. I mean 29 points in 2 games. 15 in one, 14 in another. So they've evened their record at 2-2. And they got a big one coming up tomorrow night at home against Fairlawn. And then on Friday night, they go on the road to Russia. So that is what we'll have for you with Scott Elchert. We'll talk a little basketball, size up the Shelby County League this year. You got to look at the Botkins Trojans, the defending state champions. The Plyman brothers, I loved how you said they Plymanized Minster. Jacob Plyman is our Who's Hot honoree. You can check out the graphic on the PressPros Instagram. That's press_pros. Congratulations to Jacob, who I forget the point total, but he had like 6 rebounds and 7 blocks, Sonny.
He had 22 points, and he and his brother, Carter, had 38 of the 48 total points that they had the other night. Botkins had. I had him with 3 blocks. I don't know how many rebounds he had. I didn't count those, but I kind of shut off the tube after the 3rd block because they were thunderous. He left no question. You're not going to score on me in the paint. He had a great game the other night, and of course, he was an All-State player last year. Going to be a candidate for that again this year, and unless something happens untoward or unforeseen, he's going to be that. Probably one of the best big men in Division IV in Southwest Ohio. In fact, not probably to it. There's no question about it that he is. So Phil Groves, first-year coach there at Botkins, has them off to an unbeaten start. Good-looking basketball team. They've got size. They've got a shooter outside with Jamison Meyer, who had that great game, I think, last year against Cedarville in the regional semifinal. So they've got all the components there to come back and make a real run at the Shelby County League title again this year. But in the way will be teams like Anna and Fort Laramie and the aforementioned Jackson Center Tigers. As you say, defense is their trademark. It's always been that way with Scott Elchert. And they've gotten to the Final Four at state a couple of times by playing that defense.
We'll talk a little OSU hoops later on in the broadcast. Buckeyes have won 3 in a row. They're up to number 15 in the country. They're on the road Saturday in Las Vegas to play Kentucky. And Buckeye football, C.J. Stroud finishes 4th in the Heisman. They get ready now for the Rose Bowl. Quinn Ewers has transferred from Ohio State to Texas, and the Buckeyes have a new defensive coordinator. We'll talk about him a little bit, but right now let's welcome the head coach of the Jackson Center Tigers to the program. He is Scott Elker. He's also the athletic director at Jackson Center. And Scott, you guys must be playing some pretty good defense. I see these last 2 scores, 53-14 and 62-15.
Yeah, it was a good weekend for us, and we needed it. But the big thing, we finally saw the ball go through the hoop, so that helped.
You know, you can't win if you can't score, but the paradox of that is if the other team believes that too, this is where Jackson Center always shines. I just said a moment ago, you've taken teams twice to the Final Four, not because you had some good offensive players on those years, and I'm thinking about Andy Hoying, and I'm thinking about Drew Sosby and some of the great shooters that you've had during that time, but it wasn't the shooters that got you there. It was just the intimidation of people knowing if you play Jackson Center, we may not score 30 points.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have taken a lot of pride in trying to become a great defensive team because I truly believe that once you get to tournament and you're going to make a deep tournament run, you have to be able to defend and you have to be able to score in the half court because teams are good once you start getting that deep, and your pressure is not typically going to work, and you just got to figure out a way to shut them down.
Scott, how do you teach defense to kids? Is it a, concept type of a thing? Is it just being in better shape than the other team? How much of it is attitude? Just take me through how you ingrain that kind of culture in your program.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have our own system here. We're more of a what teams would consider a pack line defense. We're not a high risk, high gambling type team. And so in the summer and in our preseason, we work on our basic concepts and our principles. And then once with each opponent, then we adjust that accordingly based on who their shooters are and whether they got inside game or, whether they're more of a perimeter team and those type of things. So we try to hammer our basic concepts with our kids, and then we adapt from one game to the next based on our opponent.
You're not the only team, though, in the Shelby County League that has a reputation for playing defense, because I know that Sean Powell did a great job last year at Botkins with his defense. Certainly Nate does a great job at Anna. I'm talking about Nate Barhorst, his coach there, and Fort Laramie for years has prided themselves on being a physical team and getting after you, in terms of defensive effort. So how far back does this go? And I know Paul Bremingen, when he was the coach at Russia, and all those coaches back then, it has that reputation for being just hard-nosed, tough to score basketball in the Shelby County League.
Yeah, I know it definitely predates me, but I've been associated with the league now. This is my 33rd year. And I can't remember it being any different than, you better be able to defend. So, a lot of the reason why we figured out that we have to become a good defensive team is what you guys just alluded to, especially you right there, Sonny, the fact that in our league, it's not just about Jackson Center, it's about the entire league. Good competitive teams that do take pride in defending, and, you got to give it your best shot every night out.
Scott, you started the season against Botkins, lost that one by 10, 34-24. You come back, lose a tight one to Fort Laramie, 39-36. I think you have everybody back out of your starting lineup except Aiden Reichert, that's the guy who you certainly tried to get the ball to a lot last season. Has it been an adjustment through those first couple games? You mentioned scoring. Has it been because you're looking for scorers, or have you identified the scorers and maybe those first 2 games in their first go round at that role without Aiden there, they struggled a little bit, but maybe now they're figuring it out?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, Bruce. We definitely have a lot of experience back if you look at us on paper, but when you mention Aiden, everybody's role completely changed because of what he meant to our team, not only last year but really for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He was he basically was a starter for us since his freshman year, but we relied on him heavily for a lot of points his sophomore, junior, and senior year. And so I think it was a matter of everybody else just trying to figure out a new role and how to adapt. We actually feel like we have a lot of scorers on our team, and that was probably one of the most disheartening things about our first 2 games is the fact that we couldn't knock down shots. Now, mind you, I want to compliment both Botkins and Fort Laramie because I think they had a lot to do with that. We didn't get a lot of clean looks, that's for sure.
Scott Elchert, our guest tonight on the Monday Huddle, the head basketball coach and the venerable dean of defense. I give him that in the Shelby County League, talking with us tonight about Shelby County League basketball. And I got a philosophical question for you. I read recently, just a few days ago, in fact, while I was out west, and I don't know if it was online. It may have been Gene Wojciechowski or somebody like that who wrote the fact that offense is a threatened species now in basketball. There is so much emphasis placed on defense that kids, he felt, in his view, whoever wrote this, said that kids don't look to score anymore. In fact, their not shooting percentages have been on the decline for years. And he said, frankly, it has become a boring game for a lot of people because the essence of the game is putting the thing in the ring. Now, I couldn't wait to get back to you and share this with you and just get your take on the fact that if people think it's a boring game because the scores, I know Jack Albers would say, I love the 12-9 game, but for people who want to see points scored, give me your view on people who say we need points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dispute that, but here's what I think, and you and I have talked about this before. I don't think that it's the fact that the art of shooting has faded. I think, quite honestly, there's so many kids that can shoot the ball and spend a lot of time. Now, I do believe this. I think the mid-range game is a rarity anymore. That there's so much emphasis on either takes to the rim or shooting the 3 that most kids probably don't work on their mid-range game like they have in the past. But what I think why there's so many low-scoring games is because of the emphasis placed on defense and the amount of scouting that goes into it nowadays. Because with technology, you get so much film on other teams, and you can just break them down left and right. I mean, I've got some amazing assistant coaches. So I would actually like to attribute a lot of our good defensive scheming and so forth to my assistant coaches because they know our opponents so well. And I also think the game has become so physical that, 25, 30 years ago, what definitely would have been a foul, it's not a foul anymore. So, when a kid's getting hit or he has to take a lot of contact, that inevitably is going to, affect if someone's able to score or not.
I've got a follow-up. I've got a follow-up to that because I know if I don't ask this, Bruce Hooley will. Is it time for the shot clock in high school basketball?
No, I don't think so. Because, I mean, okay, let's say you have a team that's not real skilled offensively to begin with. Just because you throw in a shot clock doesn't mean that it's going to attribute to better basketball because they're just going to be taking that many more bad shots, in theory. So I don't think the shot clock's the answer. I think the way the game is currently, I like it. It gives teams an opportunity to scheme. It gives underdogs a little bit more of a chance sometimes. And like I said, the shot clock, I don't think necessarily is going to attribute to more or better offense.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you, Coach. And I would not like to see the shot clock. I think that there's too much disparity across the grand spectrum of the state of Ohio in basketball that I think you have to allow I think the shot clock removes strategy from the game of basketball, and it diminishes the chance of a team to play a certain style that can frustrate a team that's used to going up and down. I mean, I think that a team that goes up and down, giving them a shot clock, is a really big advantage to them. You're forcing tempo, whereas the outcome of the game might be totally different if the team that maybe doesn't excel at the pace of a shot clock, forced into that pace, is a lesser team than they would otherwise be. So I'm not a proponent of that. I wonder how you would assess. I think a lot of people would like to know how Botkins might be a little different, if at all, this year, with Sean Powell moving on to Bath and Phil Groves taking over. As you played them in week 1, do they look like a team much like they were a year ago, or what, if anything, did you notice that's different about them?
Yeah, there was no doubt they were returning a ton of talent. And I know here at the beginning of the show, and Sonny was talking about both of the Plymans. They're big bodies out on that floor who are very skilled. So when you return those kind of bodies with some of the other role players that they have coming back, there was no doubt that they were going to be very good again this year. I think they are a little bit different. They definitely are missing some of those seniors that had graduated last year, and Coach Powell's son, and the Paul kid, and the Holman kid, who was a heck of a defender. So, but they seem right on stride early in the season from what I've seen.
What'll be the challenge for you guys tomorrow night against Fairlawn, and then looking ahead to Friday night's trip to Russia?
Yeah, I think with each game here, we just got to continue to look to get better here, and continue to find ourselves. And I think the more we share the ball and find the next open guy, the better we're going to continue to get. And we kind of always, adopt the philosophy that we definitely, and I know every team's going to say the same thing, but definitely want to be making sure we're hitting the right stride and playing our best basketball when February rolls around.
I know I don't have to tell you this, because 2 of the last 5 years, or maybe 2 of the last 4 years, I guess, going back to 18, the Division IV champion in Ohio came out of right your backyard. Certainly Botkins last year in 2018, Marion Local won it. And I think you guys have justly earned a reputation for the best and most consistent small school basketball in 88 counties of Ohio. And I know that you embrace that and believe that. And I think it's a tremendous motivation for the MAC, for the Shelby County League, for the WOAC, for all those small schools around here. And it makes the culture of basketball so strong in this part of the state. Would you not agree?
Oh, I agree 100%. Of course, I'm biased, but I agree with that. And I think, then we're just finishing up football, and I know you guys followed that very closely, but just athletics in general in this particular area in the Shelby County and Mercer County, All Glaze County, it's just top notch all the way.
By the way, how did the shopping go tonight?
It went well. I accomplished what I needed to do, Sonny. That's correct. And I'm glad to see it. You guys made it back from your trip.
Hey, I'll tell you the truth now. If Huff can handle 2 things, necks and a shotgun, he's the real deal to travel with now. He puts on a show.
I can believe that. What time did you guys get back?
I mean, minutes ago.
Okay.
Long day in the sack.
The big question is, Scott, are you or I going to get any of that pheasant that they brought back?
That is the big question. That is the question of the night, Bruce. That's what I'm saying.
That is a game time decision, Scott.
Okay, I got it.
Well, Scott, we appreciate you joining us, and we wish you and the Tigers well this season. We look forward to seeing you down the road, and always look forward to watching your team play and talking basketball with you. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas.
You bet. Merry Christmas to you and your family. All right. So Sonny has already spilled the beans. He will be on the Tigers tomorrow night, playing host to the Jets of Fairlawn, and that'll be a good one to cover. Got a little Shelby County League basketball, cross-county conference, I guess. Not the cross-county conference, but inter-conference. matchup last week with Minster and Botkins. And we will have, I forget what game we're covering Friday night in Columbus. I believe it is Dublin Kaufman and Hilliard Davidson. We had the Battle of Westerville last week, Steve Hellwagon covering Westerville South and Westerville North. And that also was a game that featured a lot of defense with the winning team scoring less than 50 points. So I don't know, Sonny, you think maybe once we get rolling here a little bit, the scores will start to climb somewhat in high school basketball as guys get out of the football mode or get fully into basketball mode, shots will start going in more?
That's exactly right. Because what nobody wants to admit and nobody wants to hear is the fact that football is so good in this area that it really hurts the basketball, especially for the first month of the season, because so many programs have to share athletes. And believe it or not, it's a whole different set of motor skills and conditioning and all the things that you could name to make the transition from football to basketball. Not that kids don't shoot during football season, but it's a little bit different when somebody is playing the kind of defense that Scott Elchert plays, or that, as he said a moment ago, that the entire Shelby County League tries to play. And the MAC tries to play that way because they're recognized as one of the most physical leagues defensively in the state of Ohio. So, yeah, it does take a while to get your sea legs under you and just kind of make that transition physically, emotionally, mentally. And, there's always a little bit of a letdown between seasons when one ends and another one starts. So, I do expect and the other thing is, too, as far as points go, Minster is a young team. Mike McClurg said the other night, we got kids here that are on the job training. And to be competitive, when you haven't played a lot of basketball, the rim shrinks. And he said, we got to make shots. If we're going to be competitive, we got to make shots. But in the meantime, to stay competitive and be in the game, you got to play defense. You got to hold keep the other team from playing. And that's a good Botkins team. And I handed to Minster the other night. They held in the 48 points on a team that could easily score 65 to 70 points on a given night. So I think a lot of teams here, by the time you get into the second week of January, are going to be totally different looking teams than what they are right now.
Yeah, I think the key for Botkins is going to be, can they find that second shooter to go with Jamison Meyer? Last year they had Zane Paul. And, when you have the two Plymans and you have two shooters on each wing, you can go cross court out of the double team in the post, or you can go out to the wing. And Carter Plyman's really good at driving, really good at cleaning up around the basket. And I think Jacob Plyman's added some mid-range skills to his game this year. I know he has, he found out, I think, late last year how good he could be. And Botkins will have to kind of grow into their roles. Jaden Pretty Powell being gone is the guy who steadied them when they needed to be steadied. And they'll have to adjust to Coach Groves, but I'm interested to see how Botkins plays. And then what are your sources telling you about MAC basketball this year and who should be good and who we ought to keep our eye on?
Well, generally for the league, it's going to be a work in progress, again, because of the fact that there's so many shared athletes between football and basketball. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that Versailles is going to be the team, the leader in the clubhouse, because they've got great size. They've got good experience. They've got Travis Swank is a great young coach there that teaches the game the right way. They have the culture of basketball there behind that community. Come out in great force on game nights to support the program. Meaning it's just a fun place and a good environment, for the sport. So they've got all the attributes there. They've got some depth. They've got experience. They've got size. They've got a couple of shooters. And they're going to be well coached. And again, they're going to play defense. So I think that's the leader in the clubhouse right there. If you want to try to pick a favorite, but hey, look, that league is so well coached. And I give you a team like Marion Local. Nobody's going to think about Marion Local this year as a basketball team. But guess who, by the way, plays an awful lot of guard for them in the backcourt? How about Peyton Oddie?
Let me guess. Peyton Oddie.
How about Peyton Oddie, the state championship quarterback? In 2 or 3 weeks, I'll guarantee you he'll be hell for leather up and down the court, scoring in transition, playing defense on the other end. And there is nobody who's coached better than what Marion Local is with Kurt Gedemeyer, the guy who won the 2018 state championship in Division IV. That league will catch up to Versailles very quickly because Mike McClurg's a great coach at Minster, Getta Miller at Marion. You talk about Rosie over at St. Henry, Nick Fisher at Coldwater. Parkway is well coached. Regardless of their talent, they're always going to scheme and come in with a plan that's going to give themselves a chance to win because they're going to play defense.
Yeah, and I think New Bremen's off to a 4-1 start. I think I saw that. So
New Bremen is off to a 4-1 start. I didn't mean to leave them out, but that's a very talented basketball team this year.
Yeah, and obviously Versailles has the big guy who will be their quarterback next year, I think, Stonebreaker, big 6'7" kid. But you're right. I mean, I'm walking down that Marion local sideline at the D7 state championship game. I'm like, wow, they got some tall kids over here. So
they'll be okay. They'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on MAC basketball. Buckeye basketball up in the rankings at 15. They are adjusting to having no access to Justice Suing at the moment. They have beaten Duke. They have beaten Penn State on the road, Towson at home, Wisconsin at home. They have a tough one on Saturday against Kentucky in Las Vegas. Ohio State is in a multi-year event, CBS Sports Classic, with 3 of the legacy programs in college basketball: UCLA, Kentucky, North Carolina. So every 3 years they play one of those schools. This is a year that it falls to them to play Kentucky. Kentucky, the last time I looked, was in the top 10, and they are big, very, very big. But they lost the other night at Notre Dame, so they are beatable. And we'll see how the Buckeyes fare. They look really good on Saturday against Wisconsin, and we'll see. You know, they kind of are figuring it out on the fly, and then when they get Suing back, they'll have to refigure it out on the fly. As for football, go ahead.
I think something that really impressed me, and I caught some snippets of that game with Wisconsin. You know, Wisconsin traditionally is, since Dick Bennett was there, is such a well-coached team. There's always plan A, plan B, plan C. And I was just impressed the other day and more basketball with them. You're our beat guy for Buckeye basketball. But I just thought they did such a good job with their interior defense the other day. And you know, they're getting a better guard play. Those guards are growing up on the job right before your very eyes. And let me tell you something. Go ahead and say what you want because you were there. You wrote the game for us. E.J. Liddell, by the way, is a horse. That guy, 28 points the other day, and every game he plays, his game becomes more complete. Would you not agree?
I would. And my question is when a team shuts him down, where does Ohio State go? I know the plan was for them to go to Justice Suing because he can take the ball to the basket, get to the free throw line, set other guys up. They don't have a player like him. It's a lot to put on a freshman in Malachi Branham. Malachi's too up and down. Their guards are still, to me, very uneven. Zed Key in a post, still a little too much for him to handle as well. Kyle Young can hurt you if you don't pay attention to him, but they don't have that second proven guy. Justin Arns has to be free to shoot the basketball. So my guess is Kentucky will double team E.J. Liddell, and Ohio State will have to adjust to that, and we'll see how they do. I think that's a 5:30 tip on Saturday afternoon. Buckeye football is headed to California, and they better mask up because California reinstated its mask mandate today. So the Buckeyes will be playing Utah. We have not heard yet whether any Ohio State players will sit out that game. I will be surprised if some do not. I do not expect Garrett Wilson to play in that game. I will be a little surprised if Chris Olave sits, only because he's from California, and he might want to play in front of his family. Wouldn't surprise me if 1 or 2 of their offensive linemen sit out the game. And I don't know, Tyreek Smith, I guess, is committed to play in the Senior Bowl, so he's out of Ohio State, even though he's got a year left. What will Zach Harrison do? Will he play? Will he sit? Will he return? Don't know. So Ryan Day and the Buckeyes are a little bit of a story that bears watching as we get ready for New Year's Day in Pasadena.
I would say, let me counter what you just said. And this is by no means a guarantee that anybody is going to play or not going to play. But after the way they got their lunch handed to them in Michigan, they have an awful lot to prove that game was an aberration, if it was an aberration, because they were manhandled by Michigan. They not only did they not play well, they were just shown up. I would have to believe that there's got to be some, if they have any pride about them at all, some of those guys need to go out and say, bad day at the office. This is who we really are. I don't know if that's the case. And maybe that's a guy my age thinking about the way people used to think 25 or 30 years ago. I know. I see what you're doing.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Tell you what, if you got any pride in your football culture, you got embarrassed 3 weeks ago. And I would think that would not be the last vestige of what people saw of you or remember you as being an Ohio State Buckeye. Say what you want.
Well, I think you're right. 100% right. I don't disagree with the word you said. I just think the way a young player thinks, Garrett Wilson probably doesn't feel like he got embarrassed. He played great, man. He's proven everything he needs to prove to the NFL. He doesn't want to go out there and risk tearing up a knee or something like that, or looking bad against Utah. So that's why I say they might sit out. Not because I endorse it, not because I like it. I'm a big believer that you finish the job. You got a degree, or, well, I overstate that. You got a free career playing football. You got coaching. You got training table. You got tutoring. You got all the trappings that come with it. And in exchange for that, you play every game the team plays. That's how I would view it. That's what I would tell my son if I had one. But these guys hear from agents, hangers-on, family members. You've proven yourself. You don't have anything else to prove. Don't go out there and play. And we've seen Brad Roby, Denzel Ward, a number of Ohio State players have sat out bowl games. They haven't sat out the Rose Bowl, but they've sat out the Orange Bowl. They've sat out the Cotton Bowl. And to these guys, Rose Bowl is no different. It's not a playoff game. It's no different. So we'll see.
Well, it does add a little bit of a negative down note to the bowl championship series as we know it, as we see it today. It has made a lot of the other bowls, frankly, irrelevant. I mean, why bother? And I think, again, it's one more reason why there's so much of a push to expand that to 8 or 12 or, God forbid, 16 teams, because they won't get it done before opening day of the baseball season if they do. But I do believe that's going to add pressure in the future to expand the championship series for whatever reason, justification you want to come up with. I think that's what we're looking at. You know, as far as what Ohio State, if you're a fan of Ohio State football, I think it's time to realize, just based on what Bruce Hooley said a moment ago, they aren't really listening. They aren't really listening on Woody Hayes Drive about what you think about Buckeye pride and Buckeye Nation when it comes to, am I going to play in the Rose Bowl, or am I going to set it out and take the money as it comes, if it comes, when it comes?
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate all your Facebook comments tonight. My guess is Mr. Fulks did not get off the road in time to peruse his Reader Speaks emails. Am I correct on that?
That would be exactly right, except for the fact that a lot of people wrote in this week before I left and were complimentary of our coverage of the state tournament. And I want to thank those people, because there are more and more people around the state of Ohio, in the counties outside the West Central Ohio and Miami Valley area, who are discovering us now and looked at it. We heard from people from the Cleveland St. Ed's community. We heard from people in Cincinnati. We heard from people everywhere. Kirkland, for instance, that were very complimentary of our coverage and of your work and Blackie's. And so, you know, a lot of nice people who took the time to write in and comment on the tournament. We'll talk about that. I'll share some of those in some weeks coming up, probably next week, about people's comments about the tournament itself. And the way it was, their impression of, particularly of the attendance. I don't know what good attendance is and expectations. Again, maybe this is a 65-year-old guy sitting there and thinking, why wouldn't everybody in town want to pack up the car and go to the state tournament if the local team is playing? And apparently there's a lot of people who believe that, because one after another were disappointed. I know one guy wrote in and had the attendance figures for every one of the games. And he said, how can a team like Marion Local, It's not a very big community to begin with. You understand that. It's a crossroads. And he said, how can a team like Marion set an all-time record for wins by a school and only have 4,650 people show up for the football game? So it wasn't all Marion local people. I thought they had a pretty representative crowd. But in all, for a game of that significance, for 4,600 people to show up, a lot of people wrote in and questioned what's being done to market the tournament better, what's being done to, just profile high school football to the point where people understand it is a significant point and event in these young people's lives. And I think, if you have that question, all you got to do is look around your own town, look around at all the opportunities that there are besides going to a high school football game now to entertain yourself on Friday and Saturday night. It wasn't lost upon me all of the regular season games this year that we went to, and I don't know about Bruce. You saw mostly games in Central Ohio, but I went to a lot of games over here where there were less than 2,000 people at the game.
Well, certainly in the playoffs, a lot of the teams that had to come a long distance, teams that played Milton Union, teams that played Versailles, particularly in that round of 16 in the region, round of 8 in the region, the attendance for the visiting team was very, very sparse. I don't know, and I'm just thinking out loud here, but I had some conversations while I was up at the state football playoff weekend with a gentleman who works on the sponsorship side of things, on the corporate side of things, trying to get companies to affiliate with the OHSAA. And I think in the past, the OHSAA has done that themselves. And now they are kind of farming that out to people who know how to do it, because they do it for a lot of associations around the country. And for those people who went, it's very clear that that entire complex up there is an under construction complex. And they are building out that area around Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium into what they're going to call Hall of Fame Village. And I don't know if that, once that is built, and once the corporate aspect of supporting the OHSAA and supporting the tournament is fully developed, if we might see something that might become a more fan-friendly thing in between games, some kind of a place where you can have some, things for kids to do, throw footballs, kick footballs, things like that. They might be able to get corporate sponsorship for that. That might draw people from the city of Canton in there. I just don't know what all is in their plans, but I think that the days of just expecting the football games to sell the weekend might be past us. We're in a culture now where you have to always be bombarding kids with new and exciting things. And I think that's an aspect of bringing more people to the event that the OHSAA might want to look at.
Well, there's no question that when they started televising the games, they killed the goose that laid the egg.
Yeah.
And now with the NFHS, the National Federation, televising, making it available to watch regular season games on Friday night. Now, they did this because of the pandemic. They did it because of COVID. It's safer to stay home. You don't risk yourself. Just stay home. Well, that's an easy habit to get into. Just stay home. Don't go to the games. It saves you $6 or $7. You're not going to get sick, and you can make your own popcorn. So, there's a lot of reasons why you can point to the fact that attendance for high school football is down for these events, and not the least of which, especially for the OHSAA finals, is it's just easier. A lot of people are still complaining that it's not in Columbus. Well, I got news for people. A lot of the people complained because it's not as convenient as Columbus, didn't go to the games when they were in Columbus. I know those people. Did you go, for those 3 years? No, there was something else. There was something going on. There was a shower or a wedding reception or something like that. We didn't go to the games. But now, it's an easy habit to get into, just to click on the TV, watch it from the convenience of your living room. No hotel, no travel, no concessions, no parking, and the cost of the tickets for the games. You can't go to those games anymore for $8 or $9. Now it's $12, $15, $18, something like that, depending on the package that you buy to go see the state championship games. So it's an entirely different thing that they're trying to market and sell. I don't care who they hire to market it.
Here is a Shout out to Mr. Fulks for his trip out west from Doug. He says, thanks for visiting Western North Dakota.
Well, it's great, Doug. I appreciate you taking the time to shout out to us, and I couldn't have been more sincere. I really enjoy. I can't even name some of the dishes and some of the libations they had at the local eateries there over the weekend, but he knows what I'm talking about. And what a charming little place to be, and just gorgeous. Just a great place to go. And you talk about the big sky and clean air, and they've got it all out there. So appreciate you taking the time to write to us.
We do, and we appreciate you guys watching. And we want to remind you, particularly the athletes who are watching and may watch this on replay, PressPros is beefing up its Instagram content. We feel like Instagram is a platform where we can be better engaging with you, and we have got somebody doing it who knows what they're doing, and they're trying to bring all of us old timers into the Instagram world, and we're working at it every day. So follow us on Instagram at @press_pros. And if you do, you will see that today we began a feature that will continue until Christmas. It is called the 12 Days of Socmus. The 12 Days of Socmus. Christmas socks, one pair a day for 12 days.
Heaven help us.
Next year, we're going to do the 12 Days of Lyle Fulks Christmas boxer shorts.
Yeah.
Very good. Well,
Excellent.
You look like you could.
What a marketing idea!
You look like you could use both a shower and a long night's sleep. So
never let it be said we don't pack a lot into a show, eh?
No, that's right. So let that happen. And Debbie always joins with us at the end of the show when we thank you for watching. But follow us on Twitter at PressProsMag. Watch our Facebook page. Also, as I said, follow us on Instagram at @press_pros. And it is that hour where we say, Truman, go to bed.
Go to bed.
Very good. And with that, we wish you all a early Merry Christmas. We'll be back again next week with another edition of the PressProsMagazine.com huddle.